guys, my name is Parvati.
And well, hey, I'm Hansley, and this is Iron Chips, where it's surprisingly nutritious, unsurprisingly delicious.
Did you guys know that 1.2 billion people suffer from iron deficiency anemia? And one of those people is me. When I was 7 years old, I was diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia. And since then, it's affected my life immensely. I've never been able to play sports because sports were for people who could run, which I couldn't do without feeling lightheaded after just 5 minutes. I couldn't engage in any high energy gatherings, such as birthday parties, without feeling completely drained and lacking any energy at all. Thankfully, after talking to my doctor, she offered me an amazing, almost magical solution, which were pills and vegetables. And then more pills and more vegetables and more vegetables until I thought there has to be another way. Well, what if chips could be the solution?
Exactly. And this is why we're here to introduce to you Irony Chips, the all natural, whole, iron rich potato chips. Are not really potato chips, but it's those crisps that you would love to get your crunch on. So, the benefits of our product here is that it's nutrient rich in a sense that it's not just like full of iron, but instead it also has a varied range of vitamins in order for you to ensure that you have a healthy diet. At the same time, it's also all natural. So that means that your product is completely composed out of like non-GMO products. And so therefore, like you won't be like worried. Like if you consume your product, you won't be worried that you would have like cancer or those other diseases because you just ate our product. And lastly, our product does not compromise on taste. It's just so tasty enough that some of our clients or test clients even said that it just tastes so good that they almost forgot they were eating iron chips.
So, by being in the chip market, we're bound to have many competitors, such as other protein chips, other vegetable chips, assorted flavored chips. But the way that we stand out from our competitors is that we target a niche yet incredibly high market that other chip brands don't. We strive to aid all of those struggling with an iron deficiency in an easy and affordable way. In less than 12 hours, we've sold 44 bags of iron chips and we've almost made $132 in revenue. This shows the demand of our product in the everyday lives of our consumers. A global study shows that about 70% of people enjoy eating chips, meaning that the total addressable market is about 5.8 billion people. Of that number, 800 million people are iron deficient and enjoy eating chips. And in just the US, 5 million people are iron deficient and enjoy eating chips. So the price point, so we sell our bag at $2.99, almost $3, and we gain $1.51 per profit for each bag because it's $1.49 to produce the product. Currently, we've only sold to our personal network, but we plan to expand that. So by autumn 2023, we plan to have 1,000 sales and 2,000 people on trial just to taste the product and check if it works out. By winter of 2023, we hope to have 5,000 sales. By spring of 2024, 10,000 sales. And by summer of 2024, we hope to have 25,000 sales. And we want to begin to start manufacturing and production in large retail stores. And so here's the team that has made Irony possible. After extensive research, our team is best fit to address the iron deficient market. Based off of an estimate of successful chip company models, what we need is $74,000. This would make 50,000 bags, and our revenue can go up to 75,000. And with 20% as trial giveaways. And while this might seem like it's a loss, we're actually gaining more because we're also gaining a lot of traction and a lot of interest for our product by our consumers that we already have. And so, in conclusion, Irony is a chip product made of iron-rich vegetables to help those with a deficiency overcome it in a simple and tasty way. We have made over almost $132 in revenue, and we are asking you for $74,000. So Judges, feast on some irony chips and let's snack our way to a healthier world. Thank you.
How do people buy today? Is it just on your website?
Yes, we have a website where people can purchase our product, but like the revenue that we already have collected has been through our personal network and selling to people that have been in our area.
So
I'm sorry, continue.
So, I mean, is this like you set up a stand or like went to a store? Like,
so what we have already done is that we have reached out to our personal networks, such as family, friends, and all of that. I know that Masuma went to her local gym and she sold some there. And we also on our website have pre-orders listed on there. And so a lot of our sales have come from pre-orders and people who have already tested our product.
so why would someone want this? If you have iron deficiency anemia, you are taking iron supplements, possibly vitamin C. You know, you are like getting some kind of treatment. So what's the benefit of having an additional iron chip?
Okay, so in addition to taking iron supplements, people who are iron deficient need a source of dietary iron, and oftentimes the solution for that is just plain vegetables. And vegetables are not always the most tasty, especially to kids who are younger. And I know that Parvati has experienced issues with anemia in the past, and she does not particularly enjoy eating large amounts of vegetables every day. So this is kind of an alternative solution that's really tasty and it's accessible, and you can have it on the go versus having to sit down and spend time preparing vegetables.
So sorry, just want to kind of go in on that point a little bit. I pulled up Mayo Clinic just to learn a little bit more about iron deficiency and was also curious about what other natural sources there are. And it looks like there are a lot of iron-rich foods. So, you know, it's not just vegetables, but, you know, red meat, pork, poultry, seafood, beans, dried fruit, raisins, apricot, iron-fortified cereals, bread, pastas, peas. So, I guess I'm also just curious, right, with all of these options for different ways to get iron, you know, through natural foods, supplement, and other snacks, like why a chip versus these other options? And I guess what research have you done into that as well?
Well, like a lot of meats and stuff like that, those are not really like on the go type of snack that you can bring. And I feel like a lot of the other options are not the most satisfying for those who are like picky eaters and stuff like that. And I feel like chips is something that can be consumed by like almost everyone, something that everyone has in their house, something that everyone can grab on the go, you know. I feel like it's a more like accessible product that people can eat from.
And also
And additionally,
so if you're like a vegetarian, you can't have the meat. And then also our chips, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, continue, Hensley.
Oh, I guess a follow-up question. I'm curious to know a little bit about your distribution strategy. You kind of showed us your next steps with, you know, 1,000 sale. I guess there are two questions. One, just want to generally hear about your distribution strategy to get to kind of in-store production, but also just kind of curious. I saw the number of 1,000 sales and 2,000 trials. Is there a specific conversion rate for the trials, or, you know, why are so many trials necessary? Just hoping you could break that down for me a little bit.
I think that our distribution strategy is kind of, or I'll answer the first part if somebody else wants to answer the second part of the question. Our distribution strategy is to not only sell online, but also kind of go to the smaller, like more healthy grocery stores. I know there are a bunch in my town that are like not chains, and they're very much so like they focus on health, and like other pharmacies and stuff like that, and kind of targeting it as marketing as a health product, you know, and going to those smaller stores and getting them to be sold there, as well as just online, and like getting our product to be bought online through like our network and then other people who we market it to.
And then sorry, follow up. So I think I've heard a lot about, right, like, you know, the reason you picked a chip is for people who don't necessarily want to eat vegetables, but then I'm hearing about putting the chip in health stores. Is your chip, besides adding iron to the chip, is the chip significantly healthier versus other potato chips?
Yeah,
Yes,
the chip is gluten-free.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear the answer.
Our chip is gluten-free too. So And then it's also made with vegetables and it doesn't have any preservatives, like unlike other chips too.
I would also like to add that our chips are baked instead of being fried like most potato chips and other chip brands. And so when you bake like chips like this, it allows the nutrients to last and it also allows for longer shelf life.
Can you talk a little bit about the defensibility here? Because it seems like what you're doing is making, a healthy sort of chip and using some of the sort of, known tricks there and doing iron fortification. And one of the challenges with a lot of these healthy brands is that, the big food companies, they have these big labs and they have tested like every single way to do every single thing to one of their products. Like they know how to do everything. Like if they wanted to make a chip that had like 20x the iron content, they could. Right? The reason they don't is because they've chosen not to. And so one of the challenge with most of these consumer brands is like, the healthy version, right? Like there's a company called the Good Crisp Company, and I saw that deal like a year ago and I passed because their sales are going great. But the problem is that like, Pringles knows how to make a version of Pringles that has half the calories. The problem is that they'll come out with a Pringles Light in 2 years and people like Pringles. And so eventually the Good Crisp Company will exist. It's just they're going to go like this. And then eventually, like this company that was raising at like 50 and then is going to raise at 200 is going to get acquired for like, 40. And, it's not going to be great for some of those investors. And so the question, but obviously it's different if there's some level of defensibility, right? Some kind of distribution, something that's very different about the way you make your product. So like Pop Chips is an example of a product that actually created something new. And so it was different. And so even though competitors came around, it's still actually the new different one. And so it's got a truly differentiated brand. So what's the actual defensibility here?
I can answer that. So, I mean, like you mentioned, there's a lot of other chip brands out there, but as we said earlier in our presentation, I feel like our chip brand is specifically catered towards those who have iron deficiencies. And unlike these other chip brands, they don't necessarily target towards a certain nutrient, which our chips do. And so, and because like the iron deficient market is so big, like there are so many people in the world that have iron deficiencies, I think that it's a pretty big market to cater to. And, with our chips that are, healthy in ways that most chips aren't, like even most chips brands that are claiming to be healthy and everything, they're not made with the same vitamins that we are. They're not made with the same ingredients that we are. And I think that just sets us apart from them. If that answers your question.
Sure. Have you found in your online marketing so far that people have reacted actually to, non-anemia based marketing? Because there are people who want iron for other reasons, like bodybuilding. That's, possibly a larger market. Just like how there's, and that would benefit a lot of the people who have anemia. Like I have a friend a number of friends who are celiac, and they benefit from the fact that there are a lot of people who think that they are gluten intolerant but aren't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. There's definitely a lot larger of a market than just people who are anemic and iron deficient, that like people who would benefit from having iron, especially like women when they're on their periods or when they're pregnant, they lose a lot of iron. And we were thinking of targeting our product towards them as well. And definitely like we don't want to close ourselves off to just like labeling that our chips are they're only for people who are iron deficient or anemic, and just we want to make sure to keep that market open because everybody can benefit from our chips, even though it's specified for one group of people.
So, quick question I have actually on that is exactly what you said. I was like, do you want to go after everyone, or do you maybe go after a very specific group of people? Because kind of building up on what Kristen said, right? I mean, I would not want to eat a lot of chips, and where I am in my life, as an adult, they're good, but I know also that kids don't like to eat vegetables or food or whatever, right? They would eat a lot of just snacking and all the kind of junk food they have, right? So,
Yeah,
and a lot of kids like us, right? Do you go after kids? very specialized, very niche, and target that market first, and then maybe eventually build up products for other market as well.
I think we definitely plan on starting smaller, and that's why we were focusing more on the iron deficient like people in the United States, as well as a specific age range of like from children up to like people who are like 30 and like on the go, people who don't have time to prepare a meal when they want to make sure to get their iron nutrients in, and just people that are on the go, and those two markets are definitely two that we are looking towards.
Well, you described the whole market. I mean, that's what the question is, right? Like, it's a very broad, it covers everyone. I mean, from a kid to up to 30-year-old is a very large number, right?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I think there's a lot of options. You can actually order food now that's like pre-cooked for you, right? It can be like gluten-free or whatever allergies or whatever. Actually, if you want iron, I think there's people who can cook that food for you now. You can just deliver it to your home. You can take it on the go. You have bars. There's a lot of products in the market. It's not the only. That's what I'm asking, right? Like, do you want to go after like one very specific subset, then expand it maybe later on?
Yeah,
Like,
and
have
I
you thought
guess
about that?
to layer on what AJ's saying too, right? When you pick your target audience, at least initially, right? Like that's going to affect decisions like your distribution strategy or even your branding. Kids, for example, that's going to change, the packaging, maybe even the colors, the language you're using, the stores you target versus, targeting towards someone who's, anemic, right?
I mean, even the use of the word irony, right? Like that implies at least teenagers and up. So, I mean, and I would also just say, like, consider geography too. Like a lot of the people who eat chips are like truck drivers. Are those the people with iron deficiencies? Are those the people who are as concerned about their health? So those are, are they the people who are eating plantain chips? And so maybe it should be an iron fortified plantain chip. I'm not saying like necessarily should do niche on niche. I'm just making the point that, you want to, when you're launching a consumer product, there's this concept of jobs to be done. So like if you have a milkshake, right? Like there's this famous story of this guy who was doing research for a large milkshake chain, and he found that a majority of the milkshakes were actually being sold during a certain hour. And so he interviewed, and surprisingly, it was actually the morning. And it turned out that it was because it was actually truck drivers and they just needed something to like occupy them. And so they put in more crunchy M&Ms so that they could chew them. And then their sales went up like 50%. And so in a similar fashion here, like I would sort of think about like, what is the job that's being done here? Who is it for? The who is super important for that, because it may turn out that I get the idea that it's like an on the go thing. It's for people who are like, who need dietary stuff and are sick of the same thing they're having over and over to get their dietary iron, or either because they're doing it for a health reason like anemia or something like, more cosmetic like bodybuilding. I get it. But like, who are those people? Do they want the same thing? Are there other things they're eating where maybe it could be iron fortified? Maybe what Irony Foods does is you actually have a plan to have like a series of iron fortified foods, and chips is like one of a few. I would also just add in terms of distribution, like one of the biggest issues that I saw with what was there is the distribution strategy. That is way not aggressive enough. That is not going to work. It is so like CPG right now is like cutthroat. DTC does not work as standalone anymore. Online, the retailers are way more concentrated than they used to be, but they all, and so they're more essential, but they also want to see more proof points before you'll actually come in. They take fewer risks on unknown brands than they used to. So obviously if you know someone, that's great. I don't know, maybe you have like a parent who like works at Whole Foods, but if you don't, or Erewhon, but if you don't, then like, they want to see some online marketing presence or TikTok. By the way, TikTok, super hot, and you are young. So, if one of you has a TikTok following, start doing Irony Foods on TikTok. There's a YC founder. She does, online umbilical cord blood, and half her TikTok content is just explaining pregnancy to people, not even selling her product. just like explain iron anemia or how iron fits into fitness or whatever. And then, oh, have you heard of irony foods? But I try irony foods, not irony chips. But yeah, like that kind of thing, because, you know, mighty products, right? So we started with a mug. We started with Bed Bath & Beyond, an exclusive. It was a new product. It ended up being the best-selling product in its category. The Bed Bath & Beyonds of the world do not exist anymore. Bed Bath & Beyond, as you probably know, went bankrupt recently. There are like 3 companies now, Walmart, Target, and yeah, what's the third one? It accounts for like almost half of the US, you know, retail, like, you know, packaged goods sales. So it's a lot more challenging than it used to be. And you really have to say, like, how am I going to get started and attention really early? How am I going to show that rapid growth? And then how am I going to use that to get into brick and mortar, or at least get those conversations going early? And I'll just say, we have a portfolio investment that we made in a men's skincare line. So it's specifically focused on men of color. And the idea is that the science is that people with skin that look like mine have different pigmentation than men whose skin look like AJ's. And so the science actually has to be different. You need different products. And so he started online. He got some press. Traditional press actually helps more than you think, at least for, like, you know, SEO. But the thing is, they converted that into retail, physical retail, faster than you would think. And so they're actually in, like, you know, I think Nordstrom's, so they're going into Sephora, and like they don't make as high of margins in that brick and mortar, but the volume is higher. And so they're actually profitable as of last year. And like during a tough fundraising environment, which I'm sure you've read about in the news, that's kept them afloat. And it's also made it so that they're able to, you know, live, and they have a more diversified revenue stream, so that if they have a tough quarter in online, brick and mortar is there. And if they have a retailer who shits out on them, well, they can just spend more on the online marketing crank and just work on that. And that's just essential for growth in this kind of thing. And it gives them more visibility, because the other thing is that there's different customers who go to different places, different times. So I would just say, like, with that plan to be way more aggressive, plan to think about how you're going to leverage these into each other. And I would also just say, because you are younger, think about how you can leverage TikTok into getting some kind of following for one or more of you, just to get some kind of numbers that you can bring to, like, a retailer or some online store that people will pay for.
Thank you, Evan. That's some really good advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Thank
We
you.
will keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Next team, please. We have consensus. Evan, you want to announce the honorable mention and the outstanding company?
All right, let's do that. Just want to emphasize, by the way, that you all did actually a really good job in a really short amount of time. In the Olympics, there are winners and losers, but everyone runs an objectively good running time. So the honorable mention is Zenova, and the most outstanding company is Irony. And I do want to say something about why those two companies were chosen, which is both companies were actually selected based on how close you got, basically, to, you know, to users, how close you were to people using you, how often you seem to be interacting with your users, how, you know, that kind of, you know, how close you were to, you know, make to revenue and some repeatability of it. That was the metric that we used. And to some extent, this depends on the time, but certainly right now in this macroeconomic environment, real companies, that is what they are being judged by. And so that is what we judge you by as well.
Thank you very much, Evan and Kristen. They have to go to run their own companies, to do their own thing. Thank you very much for sharing a part of your day with us. I think it's very useful for the kids, and it's going to be one of the most impactful days that they have had so far in their lives. So thank you very much for being part of that and providing that for them, Evan, Kristen, and AJ that had to go to a meeting as well.
Thanks again, Stock. Goodbye, everyone. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Sadok, and really incredible work. It's so impressive to see what you've built together in, through your time at Leangap. So don't stop building and keep putting yourself out there.
I
Exactly.
agree. And just remember, like, when you see like 10 users and just remember, it's like 4 weeks. Like 10 users in 4 weeks is like awesome. That's like incredible. I haven't had anything I've ever built that got 10 users in just 4 weeks, because that also means you had to build it in 4 weeks. That's really amazing.
Yeah, that is actually pretty good feedback. Very good feedback.
Yeah.
Real feedback as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
All right.
Evan.
Bye,
Christine.
everyone.
Bye.